In this video, we are going to talk about the process of meiosis and how it is both similar and different compared to mitosis. And I think it's also helpful to make sure we understand what mitosis is so that when we go to explain what meiosis is, you get a better understanding of that specific process. First, let's start off with what we know. Let's go over to the column where it says mitosis and go to where it says purpose. The purpose of mitosis is to create two cells. So one cell is going to make two cells. And in that process, those cells are going to be exactly the same. They're going to be identical or genetically the same. The type of cells created from this process would be any body cell. That means any non-sex cell in the body is going to be made by mitosis. So I'm going to put here all cells in the body are made from this specific process except egg and sperm, which are the sex cells. For location in the body, that would be all over. So if every single cell besides egg and sperm is made from this process, we could find cells all over the body that go through mitosis. For examples, we could literally list any cell type except for egg and sperm, which are your sex cells. So know that there's a lot of possibilities that I could have listed, but I'm going to put blood, muscle, and skin, just to name a few. Now let's go down to where it says the number of cell divisions, number of chromosomes in each cell, and the number of cells created. We're going to draw a little picture to explain what goes on. And we're going to go through the entire cell cycle. We're going to start off with a cell of 46 total chromosomes. So when a cell enters interphase and goes through G1, S, and G2, it needs to start off with 46 total. During G1, the cell is going to grow. In other words, it's going to get bigger in size. It's also going to make a copy of its organelles. Remember, interphase is a time for the cell to prepare itself in order to divide. Now let's go to the next step in interphase, which is S phase. S stands for synthesis. During this specific phase, DNA is going to synthesize or it's going to replicate. What that means is the DNA needs to make more of itself. And when it makes more of itself, it's going to double in amount. So if we start off with a cell of 46 and we double the amount of DNA, it's going to go to 92. After the cell synthesizes or replicates its DNA, it's going to go on to G2 phase. During G2 phase, it's pretty similar to G1. The cell is going to grow and get bigger, and it's going to make sure it has enough organelles in order to go through cell division. So again, these three steps we're calling interphase. After the cell prepares itself for cell division, it's going to go through mitosis and cytokinesis, which is M phase. So when the cell divides, we want to make sure that we end up with two identical cells, each with 46 chromosomes. So during mitosis, you're going to see half the DNA goes to one cell, and the other half of the DNA is going to go into the other cell. Again, we got to create identical cells, so we got to have half and half. So this is mitosis, which are your 4 steps: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. I like to call that PMAT because PMAT, the first letter of each name is in order. And it's one of those things that just helps us remember. And cytokinesis. So remember, cytokinesis is not a part of mitosis. It is that final step of M phase that is fully going to split those two cells into two separate cells. Now let's talk about a new word that we have not used before. The new word is diploid. So I'm going to put these cells in a bracket. Two diploid cells are created from the process of mitosis. When we say diploid, that means there are two sets of parental DNA found within each cell. Or parent DNA. That's what I mean by parental. And if you think about it, di means two. So that's what we're talking about, two sets of DNA within each cell. So diploid and two. To make sure we understand what we mean by two sets, one set of 23 chromosomes comes from mom. The second set, or another set of DNA of 23 chromosomes, comes from. We can represent diploid through a mathematical formula, which is very simple. 2n. 2 represents di, or diploid. N represents the number of chromosomes. When we talk about the diploid number for humans, we would do 2 times 23, because as humans, in each of our body cells, we have two sets of chromosomes. We inherited one set of chromosomes from mom, one set of chromosomes from dad, and each of them gave us 23. So 2 times 23 is 46 total chromosomes. So all of our body cells have a diploid number of chromosomes. If we go back up to our picture, we can highlight the diploid cells from the cell cycle process. We start off with a diploid cell of 46 chromosomes in G1, and we end up with 2 new identical cells, each with 46. So these are also diploid cells. In other words, every time we see the number 46, we know that's diploid. Now let's go over to the other side and talk about the process of meiosis. The purpose of meiosis is to create 4 unique cells. That means all cells created from this process are genetically different. For example, a female's egg cells, all of them will contain information about eye color. It's just what eye color is actually in each of the cells. So for example, one egg cell may have blue eye color. Another egg cell may have brown eye color. And you also have to think too, it's not just eye color, but there are thousands upon thousands of other traits that could each be genetically different. For the type of cells created from this process, this would be only sex cells. So only egg and sperm are made from meiosis. For location in the body, these would be found in the reproductive organs. For females, the egg cells would be found in her ovaries. And for males, the sperm cells would be found in the testes. Let's go to where it says the number of cell divisions, the number of chromosomes in each cell, and the number of cells created. We're going to go through this just like we did with mitosis, but understand that meiosis is mitosis times 2. So it's going to go through 2 rounds of cell division instead of 1. Up at the top, you're going to draw a circle. There is 46 total chromosomes when we start the process in interphase. So we go through G1, S, and G2. So G1, the cell is going to grow, get bigger, make more organelles. S, it's going to replicate the DNA. And then G2, it's going to continue to grow, get bigger, make sure it has enough organelles, and get itself ready. So again, that's interphase. Now, for the first round of meiosis, we're going to call that meiosis 1. Meiosis 1 is just like mitosis for the most part. Now, we'll get into the specifics later on, but you're going to see it does make 2 cells of 46. So over here, I'm going to label this meiosis 1 because it's the first round of meiosis, so it's still going to go through PMAT, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, and cytokinesis, splitting the cell into 2 separate cells. Then it's going to do it again. It's going to go through this other round of cell division. So those cells are going to go from 1 cell to 2 cells as well. This time, though, notice that we are going to end up with 4 cells of 23 chromosomes. So we call this meiosis 2 for the second round. Again, it's going to go through prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, which is PMAT. And cytokinesis is going to finish off that process. We can highlight, let me choose the highlighter. We can highlight the diploid cells. We have 46 here and here. This time, let's talk about haploid. For haploid cells are created from the process of meiosis. When we talk about haploid, I want you to think about half the amount of DNA. Because you're not going to end up with a full number of 46. You're going to end up with a half number of 23. Now, the reason we say the half number is because you're only going to have, instead of 2 sets of DNA, like diploid, you're going to only have 1 set of DNA. 1 set of DNA is found within each egg or each sperm cell. You have to remember during meiosis, you're not creating body cells. You're creating sex cells. So if you're a female, you're creating 4 egg cells. If you're a male, you're creating 4 sperm cells. This time I'm going to use blue to represent haploid. Down at the very bottom, we can represent the haploid number, the number of chromosomes through the letter N. For humans, N is equal to 23 chromosomes. Up at the top, when we look at the picture, we can see that our haploid cells are the 4 created from this process. So if you're female, you're going to create 4 haploid cells or 4 egg cells or sex cells that have 23 chromosomes in each, or if you are a male, you are going to create 4 sperm cells, each with 23 chromosomes inside.